Hey everybody, it's Valerie from Eartherella Soap and Candle Company. Today I'm doing things a little bit differently. Typically I use melt and pour embeds in my cold process soap, and usually I use column molds. You've seen me use the silicone molds that I fill up and then I peel and I put them in the center of my soaps. I couldn't find the exact embed or the exact column mold that I was looking for. So I'm going a totally different route this time. I'm trying something different. I will be using cookie cutters. Actually, I will be using this small one in the center. I was looking for a column mold that was a pumpkin, and I did find a couple, but they were either too small or too big, and I didn't want to. I was looking for a specific size. So what I will be doing is using my cookie cutter to create my own column embed in the middle of my soap. So for that reason, I'm going to be using my slab mold instead of my loaf mold, and I'm going to be using my lye water, my hot lye water, to melt my oils and butters, and then I'll just pour it all into my column mold and then cut out the shapes that I need. So I will show you really quickly my vision for this soap. This is I call it my Nutty Pumpkin Waffle soap. I used to have a fragrance called Nutty Pumpkin Waffles, and then they discontinued it. So I had searched and searched, and I found another fragrance through Candlewick called Pumpkin Pancake, and it smells exactly like the fragrance that I used to use. So I will be using Pumpkin Pancake fragrance oil, and I will be calling this my Nutty Pumpkin Waffles. I will have, I'm hoping my background of my batter will be like a creamy color. I'll be putting a vanilla stabilizer in that because this fragrance does tend to make my soap really dark. So I'm hoping that that will keep it light. I'll have brown and orange swirls in there, and then the orange pumpkin you see in the center is going to be my pumpkin embed that I'm making today. So I think that's everything. So that's how I want my soap to look. That's what I'm hoping it will look like, but we'll see. Oh, and I forgot to mention up here, these I have little waffle embeds that I will be using melt and pour embeds for the top, for the waffles. I have round and the rectangular waffle molds. So I'll be making those as well today, but I probably won't be doing that on video. Alright, so I have my oils and my butters in my one container, and I have my water in my one container. And then in this container I have my lye. So I'm going to pour my lye into this container very slowly. And oh, I forgot to show you one thing before I pour it all in. The temperature of my water is at 77 degrees. Alright, so 76, 77 degrees. You're going to see how hot the lye makes the water. It'll go well above 200 degrees in no time. So I will be using my lye water to heat and melt my oils and butters. I can already feel the heat in here. I don't know if you can see the steam coming up. It's really, really hot. And you don't want to breathe this in. I have a window open, so just make sure you're in a well ventilated area when you use lye, because the smell that comes from the odors that come from the lye water is very dangerous. So now you can see we are at, right now it says 197, 199. I've seen this get up to 220 degrees. Now it's at 209, 204. So you can see how quickly the temperature gets up there. Just want to keep stirring this for another minute before I pour it into my oils and butters. The container is actually so hot that I need to use a towel to hold it. So I'm going to pour this into my oils and butters. So now I'm just gonna keep giving this a stir until these are all melted. Alright, so as you can see, my oils and butters are completely melted. It only took about maybe 5 minutes. So I'm afraid because there's not much room in this bucket, that when I go to mix it with my stick blender, it's gonna kind of go all over the place. So I'm going to pour my oils and butters into this container. Alright, so my oils and butters are now in my larger container that will be a little bit safer to mix with my stick blender. Let's see here. This is my slab mold that I'll be using. So I'll be using this instead of my regular loaf mold. And my regular loaf mold that I use for the majority of my soaps is 18 inches long. So my new cookie cutter that I'm going to be using to make my column embed, this is 1 inch thick, so I need to make 18 of these minimum. So if I'm able to make more, I'll just save them for another soap. So I'm going to be, after I'm done mixing this, I'm going to pour my batter in. I'm going to color it as well, color it in orange. I have Adobe Orange mica powder here. So I'm going to be coloring it in orange and then pouring it in my slab mold. And then I'm just going to let it harden until tomorrow, and I'll cut out all of the pumpkin shapes. Alright, so now I'm going to add my orange color. I'm just going to dump it in. I'm going to need quite a bit of this to make it dark enough. I'm also going to add a little orange salsa mica color. Just trying to get that right orange color that I'm looking for. So now I'm just going to pour this into my slab mold. And I'm just gonna let it sit now. probably until tomorrow, but I will check it later and see if it's hardened. If it's hardened enough where I can use the cookie cutter to cut out my embeds, I may unmold it tonight, but I have a feeling I will probably have to wait till tomorrow. So that's all I can do for now for step 1. Okay, I am back. It's the next day. My soap did go through a gel phase, which I knew it would because I was soaping at a hotter temperature. And you can see the inside color of the soap. It's an orange. You can see a little bit like there's a slight ring around here where it's a little bit lighter on the edge. I don't know if you can see that. Just as, you can see where the gel phase kind of made a ring right there. But that's fine. That's not going to interfere with what I'm going to be doing because this soap is just for my pumpkin embeds that I'm going to be making. So this is 2 pieces that I cut out using my cookie cutter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just stack them together, kind of press them together until I have an 18-inch mold, or not a mold, but an embed, an 18-inch embed of all these pumpkins in a row. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of setting it here. The width of my soap, the thickness of the soap is thicker than the 1 inch, so this is why I'm doing it this way. I'm cutting a square like that, and then I'm going to cut it in half, length or thickness wise, and then I'm going to just push my pumpkin cookie cutter in. This way it's easy for me to get it out. And then I'm just going to peel around the cookie cutter and then push it out. And then I will just stack these all together until I have an 18-inch piece to go in the middle of my soap. And then with all of this extra that I have quite a bit here already, I will be putting that in an airtight container because later on I will be making probably a confetti soap. So I may shred all that and use it as confetti since it's unscented. But I'm not going to throw it away because it's still good soap. So I'm just going to continue doing this until I have my 18-inch molds, or my 18-inch embed to go in the center of my soap. Okay, so this is all I have left. Some pieces over here and some scraps on this side. While, I don't know if you noticed, like about a quarter of the way as I was cutting these pumpkins out, this happened. And I was like, oh, you know what? Because I was cutting them really to, when I was putting my cookie cutter in, I was just breaking off the edges and, you know, putting it in my scrap pile. And then I had cut one that was a little bit wider than the pumpkin, and this happened, and I was like, wow, that's really kind of cool. So I ended up doing this with all of them, and I have quite a bit here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I have 18 of these. So this may be enough for another whole soap that I'm going to make. So now I think that would be kind of cool as an embed inside of a soap, a hollow center with maybe some swirls inside of it. So I'm gonna keep these. I think that turned out really awesome. I was excited about that. So I have all of my pumpkins here. I actually have more than I need, so that's great. I only needed 18 inches, and I know I have more than that. So I have all these 3 stacks of pumpkins. So when I go to make my soap, I will stack them all together, push them together as good as I can, and set them in the center of my soap. So I'm actually going to get ready to melt my oils and butters for my soap now, and it'll probably take several hours for it to get down to room temperature, but I will be back. Okay, so these are my silicone molds for my, my waffles. I have the rectangular waffles and the circular waffles, and I'm going to be putting one of each on each bar of soap. So for this one, I am going to be using Melt and Pour. So this is my Melt and Pour soap, and this is it's clear. I think it's called Crystal Clear, Premium Crystal Clear. I get it through Wholesale Supplies Plus. So I'm just going to put a little bit in a container, melt it for about 20 seconds, and then add some color to it. Okay, so it's all melted now. I'm going to add caramel brown butterscotch mica. Just going to add a little bit. I want it to have like that golden waffle color. That's the perfect color right there. So I have this little dropper, and I'm going to use this to fill my molds. I'm not going to fill them all the way because I don't want them to be too thick. Okay, so I had a little bit extra left over, so I did fill in the last 2, and then I filled in this whole tray because that's 18. I'm going to spray them all with rubbing alcohol to break up any bubbles on top, and now I'm just going to let it sit to dry. It takes about maybe 10-15 minutes. These don't take very long, but I will, oops. But these do not take very long to set up. Okay, so my waffle embeds have hardened, and I'll show you what those look like. They came out perfect, the perfect color that I was looking for. So these, I'm gonna unmold all these and put them in my airtight container.